Yeah. 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 Floors. Great. Go on ahead and bend your ears all the way open. You're going to try to save on you some money like I always do. One of the same mistakes most fellers make, and I've been there back in 1982, is you'll cut a project just all the smithereens. Then a guy will sit down one night after some wobble pops and order up a bunch of metal, and when you get it, oofta, it just doesn't fit right. And then you blame the company and so on. But there's a huge difference in metal replacement parts here, fellers, and you really got to pay attention. Specifically with drop-in or replacement. They're different castings and everything. A drop-in pan like this one is just that. You just drop them in. The flanges usually go up, and they're a little bit bigger because they're made to lay over top. Direct replacement, the flanges or end pieces usually go down like the OEM. They're a little bit narrower, and they're meant to be butt welded, whereas a drop-in usually overlap. So before you start cutting up your rig, you really got to think just all the way ahead. What are you going to do? You're going to butt weld it, you're going to do drop-ins, you're going to do an entire floor, so on. Guys got to figure it out before you get too far ahead. I did drop-ins, and that's how I cut it up here, and I'll kind of show you some of my lines. But I'm going to lift the truck up. Let's get underneath. I got the other side kind of just, she's set in there. Nothing's welded in yet. But I kind of want to show you how all this goes together, and then it's after dinner. We got to get after it here. We got to get something done around this place. It's just a bunch of farting around. So these panels are just vice grip related in here right now, of course. But I'm going to show you the underneath side, and I'll show you the topper side. I had the trimmer up just a little bit. Got pretty close the first time, actually. And then one of the pieces I went ahead and cut off, and I'll explain why here in a minute. And we'll still use a small chunk of that. But underneath here, this is kind of what we got going on. And there's 3 different pieces here. There's the replacement inner rocker. And then there's the floor pan. And then there's the floor support, cab support, thingy, majigger up there. And that's kind of sort of how all of that's going to fit in. And it's a little bit hard to see because of the darkness under here. But these sat in really nice together. Everything lined up good here. Might have to put just a little bit of a shim underneath that guy in between there. But all of that fit pretty well. Now this piece here, I cut off because it's a universal piece that could fit standard cabs or crew cabs. And that chunk goes all the way back up into here. And I didn't want to start cutting into this in the other cab support, which isn't there on a standard cab. I do need that little chunk right there, which we can easily cut out like this, and then we'll weld that in. So I just put her in the chop saw and got rid of that. But everything's pretty good. But of course, like everything around here, it's 2 steps forward and 319 millimeters back. This main floor support running up here is bent up. So my gap between the floor pan and the frame rail is incorrect. You can see it's almost touching there. And I've got a good inch over here. So I've got to correct that. And then I need to make this plate that came from the assembly line. Probably 2 of them, because I'm going to destroy all this coming out. So I use that as a template, make a couple plates, and set that up in there. After I get that bent down, we should have the correct gap in here, and we'll go on ahead and check that. I've also got new body mounts we're going to throw in here. So probably the first step is going to be loosening the other body mounts and getting this cab lifted up just a little bit so I can get a new body mount in both sides. Then we'll probably make sure you can see how this isn't looking, that's not right. Pretty good bend in that. That's from the torch work I had to do to get the bolt out. I think the weight from the cab just kind of brought her down over top of that. But we'll get all that squared away. And then all of this goes in a particular order. The floor actually has to go in first because I can't fit the floor in under this lip with the inner rocker. So it's floor, inner rocker, then cab support. So that's kind of the order we're going to be going for. I need to write this down because I'm going to forget it. Here's the top side, that drop-in pan. You can see this here. This is where we're going to put in some seam seal. And the top part fits into the bottom part. This here, I got another piece we'll cut here, and then we'll have to fabricate a piece here. And I did this for reference. Here is kind of a wishful thinking line. I drew this in when I started the project. Then I bought the drop-in pans, set these in, and you can see if I would have gotten a hurry and cut, I'd be in a world of hurt. And there's plenty of good metal underneath it here. I was kind of just... These look great. I need maybe a 1/4 inch right here, but you can see I got that over here. So I just got to shimmy this in and over. And what I'll end up doing is just putting some self-tappers in strategically around here, and that'll hold it into place. I'll weld it in, pull those screws out, and just plug weld it when we get to that point. But for now, I gotta figure out, I think this is my body mount bolts here, but I got nothing. I'm gonna have to go get, I gotta get different tools, is what I'm saying. Get those off and get a jack under here and just gotta bring that up. Well, this definitely doesn't look nor feel right, but I think that means just keep going. It'll come around eventually. Well, we got lift off. I hear bending, just a little bit more after the bending noise. There's the old cab mount, which is relatively, no, it's bad. We need to replace that. Now, real quick, just gonna get up in here and clean it a little bit. It doesn't need it, but I'm here. Then we're gonna pull all these pans out so I can straighten out that piece. You gotta do it from the top, and we're just gonna bring in the big Tanya Harding and just, give her a couple onions, and that'll straighten right out. Need some sandpaperage. I can't find nothing around here anymore. Get out of there. Okay. Seems good. Yep. Oh, yeah, that looks bad. That's fine. Oh, I gotta weld that in too. Dang it, forgot. Guy can actually just see the anger that I went through getting this piece out here. And I had forgotten that that involved just blowing out the back end here. So what I'm going to do is flatten this out. Tink, tink, tink. Ow! And then after that, on the backer end, I'm going to a plate in here. So this, you know, this actually might do something. And then we can come back in, set this piece in here, and we're trying to get the top of the new piece levelish with the old piece, which we're a good 19 feet off right now. So there's a little bit of work to be had. Guy moved the jack over because she was flexo-lighting on me a little bit too much. Cut out a piece right here, and that's going to cover up that. So I'll trace it out, and then I'll get in here with that zzz, clean it up, burn it in. Start on the end here, take the Tanya Harding and just make sure she's flush all the way across. And then I'll come back and burn it around. After that's in, should finally have enough support where I can lift it back here again, get it off this body mount, and then we can start making that plate. I've got that plate right, it's right there. We'll just kind of try to copy that close as we can. Doesn't need to be perfect. Basically it was spot welded into this support, and then there was one weld on each side into the cab support. Doesn't do a whole lot. I think it just more distributes the weight evenly, because that's where a feller's heels, you know, they're gonna rest right there. That's kind of all we're going for, is just a little bit more support day. Yep, this ought to work. The Bracelator 4200's welded in, and I could have skipped this, and really no one would have known, honestly, besides, well, all of you and me. But take it from someone that's put together 74,912,614 cars. It's the little things like this when you're driving down the road and you're going, dang it, I should have just done whatever, because I was in there. So Mazel do it. I ain't got nothing else going on. Gonna get the cheek poker in here and see how many I can get stuck in my face, and then hit her with the old rust treatment. And then we're moving on to whatever step I said earlier was the next step in the thing. Is this sound even working? Luckily, the frame on this thing is actually really solid. Needs absolutely no repairs. In fact, I'm finding the factory black paint under all the dirt here when I'm digging on it. So that's good news. I gotta find that. There's some sort of magical Schwarzenegger spray I found. Just gonna treat on this while we got her opened up like this. Boy, that's shiny black. I hope it actually converts to rust though, that's what I'm after. Yeah, up in there. Yeah, down on that thing. Looking pretty snazzy. This part here, I'm gonna need to make two of, because this one's just gonna get destroyed coming out of here. Kind of looks like a thin pancake. I think they call them a floor crepe. Could be wrong. But basically I'm just going to take a width and length measurement, draw it onto a piece of metal, completely guess, round the corners off, and if I get close, that's close enough. I'm going to weld it here and up here, and maybe one or two plug welds. Let this side just float, because we're going to have to come underneath, remember, and jam this in. and then we'll run our body mount bolt through it. And I think what happens is when you put that floor pan in, basically it's just a support that kind of ties everything together. I don't know. I'm not a scientist or engineer. It's just, it was there for a reason, and I'm putting it back. Flip these out quick. We got a left and a right. I don't know which one's which. I got it right. It turns out. And then I drilled some holes down in here. That way we can lay it on that support and just we'll plug welder in. How do you get rid of these? Probably not gonna work. And we're gonna let it float in there. Dang it, I knew it. And then a guy can just bring that support under here later. And then we'll come back and undercoat it once we get that support in. But these will work fine. Bent those in the old bench vise, you know. Guy's been staring at this. I'm gonna leave this piece just floating here, I think. If I tack weld this piece in here, I'm just not gonna have the anglage I need to fit it back in. And then the inner rocker will just slide up behind it. Well, hopefully. Yep. There we go. That's dialed in. And then I'll hit that with some of this rust preventative stuff on top here before we put that other plate on. Guten Tag. Went ahead and wasted all my ambition right away this morning. Got in early and threw in all of the cab mounts here. Those look neat. I mean, we're in here, might as well go ahead and do it. Works slick. I just took the old Airjack 9000, clamped on a jack stand, pressed up right here, and bingo, cab popped off like nothing. Got this bolted in as well, so I got a little bit of movement in here. Of course, I can move this out as well, but this is technically in. So next step is get the floor kind of just scabbed in, and then we'll make sure the inner rocker is going to fit, and then we'll go upstairs again and actually weld in the floor, and then come back and finish that up. By the way, after putting the body mounts in, this gap here is really fancy. Now I got to fix the crooked trim and everything they did to try to make up for the bad cab mount. But this looks really good, so I'm happy I spent the time to do that, and they're actually really affordable. So if you're underneath your rig, might as well toss them in. I got both floor pans up here on the bench. I've been using the LMC stuff for coming on 20 years already. My goodness. So I've got a lot of confidence these are going to fit as is. So I'm wondering if a guy should just clean them up now and drill my holes in the lips here and get everything ready so I don't have to go in and out, in and out, in and out. Just do it all now. And then I'll jump in the cab with the old die, zin, 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 and clean up the cab. And we should be ready to weld faster that way, because I want to get at least one side done today. Goodness. The other thing I'm looking for here when I'm deburring this and cleaning it up, I cut this with the old angle grinder and the death wheel. So if you ever have to kind of move your death wheel and change angles or something like that, you can get overlap in your cut, or you can get a really thin edge. You want to take your grinder and just dig that out and get rid of it. Otherwise, when you go to weld this in, you're just going to blow right through it, and then you're putting big gobs in, chasing your weld. So make sure you got even thickness all the way around this floor pan, and then make sure you're cleaning up the actual edge as well. I got paint marker, for example, and all this stuff. You want a nice clean weld. That way your welder can do its job properly. Decided to plug weld up here on the kickalizer where the feet go. It's just a little bit cleaner than a full overlap weld. I am going to put the carpet kickers in, but just one of those things again, staring down at your feet going, I should have made that a little cleaner. Never going to get done. Wonder what John Anderson's doing today. Got her all cleaned up, and then I took the copper weld and around here. That's a zinc and copper based weld through primer, and I've had pretty good luck with it. Basically it's corrosion protection when you're layering up some metal. You don't want it rusting underneath where you just lay down the new stuff. Some people believe in it, some don't. I've had good luck with it. Plus, keeps the guy's weld splatter just a little bit under control. That's neat. Well, let's get that panel, lay it in here, see if we got to make any last second adjustments, throw a couple screws, and then finally get to Zeusing. Goodness. She's a little bit of a puzzle-later, but I think I got her in here. The tricky part is getting the floor pan on top of the inside rocker and under the lip of the rocker. And I ended up bending that just a little bit, but that's okay. Pretty well clamped in here where a guy needs it. And what I'm going to do now is get some self-tappers and just start moving some of this around and getting it attached. I need to make up about a 1/4 inch at the top here. I could just bend that over, but I need this line to, you know, it needs to match basically. Got a little bit of OCD going on right now for some reason. And I could do that pretty easily. This corner just needs to go in so the whole thing shifts. And once I pull this over, I'm going to be able to get my room right there. So I'll start here self-tapping, get this moved into place, run a few in around it, a couple more clamps, make sure everything is where I want it to be, and then we'll start. Got some of these self-chewing twirly pokes with the flathead on them. Bring it in. Ouch! Look out now. You just gotta be careful. Ouch! Again! Well, less horsepower. This air pressure in my face is nice though. I think it's leather. Well, this isn't a self-chewing one. Well, clearly it doesn't want to work. Just come back out then. Get out of here. That's hotter than the devil. Well, it ruined this one now. Well, 2 in a row can't be bad, can they? Ouch! Ouch! My wrist just can't take more. Ouch! I just can't believe this. Okay now, do I gotta commit to it like this? You want me all the way in here? I guess that does work significantly better. Guys got her all screwed in, and basically I'm just laying screws in wherever a guy would need an extra hand, and like through this gap here I can easily just push that down. So then I'll run tack welds in between these screw bobbers just to get it kind of set. And then just a reminder, not as important with floor panels, but definitely with doing body panels, you want to spread out your spot welds so you don't get warpage. Got to make some stuff here, a little piece in the corner, not a big deal. Little square here, that'll be easy as well. And then this chunk, which comes underneath the rocker, I'll just take this piece here and hopefully cut out the chunk that I need. And I'll probably come underneath maybe, haven't decided, because I got to get behind both these gaps, see if I can clean it up behind there. There's some old caulking in here I got to get out and then see if this is even good enough to weld. Hopefully I don't have to come all the way back into here. What is this now? I don't know. So coming along pretty good. I think I'm going to hit lunch, grab a wobble pop and some hamburger, come back and Zeus this up. she's all tacked in there. And now's the time, fellers, to double, triply check your fitment. It's hard to come back past this point. You can still grind some out and move around, but I think this is going to be just fine. Going to finish welding this in. It's not a beauty contest here. I'm going for strength, basically. And I'm going to grind on it just a little bit with the flap disc. Just. I don't want to take any metal from the new pan or the existing floors. And I'm going to cover it up with seam seal anyway. And I really just gob that in there. So we're not going to see it under all the carpet and stuff. More of a structural weld than anything. So I'm going to keep on going, get this buttoned up, and then we got to bring her up and get the inner rocker and the brace and everything on the bottom side tied in. It's done. And this is what the plug welds over here look like. And then the little ones are where the screws are at. And now I'm working on patching up this area here, which used to be the auxiliary fuel tank. And then a little spot there that these two didn't join. So I'll get these kind of bent into shape with the hammers and great. Start welding. By the way, guys got a box fan over here running. That's just to circulate some fresh air, especially when you're working in floorboards and stuff like that. Some of that smoke and gas can get trapped in here and gives the guy a headache. You don't have to go crazy and put in dryer venting and stuff like that for fresh air inlets. Just open the garage door or run a fan. There we go, that's all patched up. Gets a little tricky with different thicknesses of metal and quality, and had a couple dirty spots, but that's okay. Again, all of this is getting covered in seam seal, paint, insulation, and carpet, so it doesn't matter. Gonna lift her up in the air now, patch that. I got a zzz on the inner rocker here and back there, and then I gotta firm up that cab support that's just loose in there. Get that cleaned up and tacked in as well. So underneath here, I'm just gonna vice grip this, and I've cleaned up some areas fairly evenly spaced. Those are the slices from a guy just zing from the other side. I'm gonna weld those shut. And I got this to patch yet. This big, it's a mess, just procrastinating. And then these are holes that I pre-drilled and already cleaned before I put this inner rocker in. And just gonna clamp it, plug weld those, really simple. And then this one here, we'll be able to line it up using this one as a template. And I can already see that it's kicked off at an angle. So this one needs to come back and then up just a little bit. And we'll clean that up and clamp it. But this should go pretty quick. No, probably not. Moving over here to the drinker side, we got to finish bringing her down, cutting out some stuff, getting her cleaned up. Basically the same thing. Truth be told, this is the whole reason I've been putting off this project, is putting in the floors and stuff. Body work is just, I don't like it! Anywho, guy's gonna use his pneumatic caveman and the lightning scissor and just finish blowing this stuff out here. Finally got all this stuff out. You can see we got a small hole in this one too, and most of that just comes out on this piece. It's not necessarily rotted. You can see the spot weld there. So I've already cleaned on her right here, and once I beat this in with the Tanya Harding, I'll zzz a plate into that. Clean this up with the cheek poker. Just trying to get everything done in here before we raise her up. And I'm gonna clean this up a little bit too after I lay my pan in. Make sure I got some room. And then previously we talked about bringing this over. I'll do that really quick as well over to this gap, because this is the same seam that we did over there and it worked pretty well. And then we'll get her up and get this inside rocker cleaned up. She is a mess. I think the guy's got it where he wants her before we lift her up. Cleaned up all the edges from the lightning scissors there. Laid in the pan, traced her out, cleaned up our welding edge. Got the plate in there. Got this treated up. I skywalkered this off here and got that all sanded down. Got some rust coming in here. Actually took a DA to that, cleaned her up quite a bit. Cheek poker, treated that. She's fish eyeing on me because I got some Ace of Base sauce underneath it. And that's fine, I'm just trying to treat the rust. So I think we got everything done up top. Now we got to bring her down underneath of her, so I get it up in the air and let's get going. It's almost lunchtime already. Dang it. This side seems to be going just fine. The only thing I changed over here is I went ahead and tightened the floor support or the cab support down to about 714 foot-pounds. So that way she ain't moving in here and I could jam my inside rocker in. So this is just tacked in, but I'll throw the floor in. Just double check everything's where I want it to be. This isn't going to move now that it's sitting on top of that. Then all I need to do is just look at my support placement, which looks really good. Actually better than the other side. I had to manipulate the other side a little bit more, but this sat in really nice. This side is more backer if you guys are doing this on a square body. They're kind of at an angle. Don't know why. That's just the way they were. The old top side's all welded in. So now I gotta bring her up. Got the plug welds along the bottom, and then I got a same plate I gotta make kind of right in there, patch the inner side, and then grind her down, and we're finally on to seam sealing all this stuff. Both sides seam sealed, and I also got the underneath already seam sealed. Remember earlier I kept saying don't worry about how good your weld looks, just focus on quality and strength, and this is why that seam seal, I mean, it's basically going to cover everything, including Ray Charles welding with his left foot. I'm going to lift this thing up eventually. I think I'm going to pressure wash everything underneath of it. Now that all the seams are dried up, guys got to paint on them a little bit. I got some of this Por 15 super rust preventative stuff. This left over from the Cadillac. Guy needs to save on his leftovers. It's just easier on the billfold that way. I'm not going to do the whole floor. I'm just going to do the seams basically, and whatever's easy. Took a guy 17 minutes to get the lid off the old can. When they say make sure you clean it up before you put the lid on or it's going to stick, they meant it. This is flat black, if you don't remember from the Cadillac, and it covers really easy. Yep, sure. Why not? There we go. That's all finished up. Floors are officially, they're done. Underneath the old rig, I'm going to use an undercoat spray bomb, kind of like this. And probably put 2 heavy coats on, especially around the seams on the bottom, so moisture doesn't just get in there and start rusting away, and we're back in there in 2 years doing it again. I decided to wait on this because I'm going to get underneath there and actually pressure wash the truck because I got to paint the frame anyway. But that's going to cause an irreversible mess in the shop for 30 days. So I'm just going to wait on that. That's going to do it for this part of the build. Floors and rockers are in. Coming up next, we got a vintage air system. We got digital gauges, full interior, custom seats, and of course, last but not least, an LS engine, a monster transmission. Thanks guys, see you next time. Now I gotta clean this mess up.